Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 30 running back rankings and tiers for week number 15 of the 2022 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 15 tiered running back rankings. We begin with tier number 1 at the running back position. In my opinion, all 5 of these guys are must-starts on the week. At number 1, we open with Austin Ekeler of the LA Chargers going up against the LA Titans, the Tennessee Titans at home in LA. Now, this matchup is obviously far from ideal as the Titans defense is pretty good up against the run, but with how many targets Austin Ekeler sees game in and game out, because Justin Herbert is a check down merchant, I fully believe Austin Ekeler could smash in this spot. RB number 4 last week up against my Miami Dolphins in half PPR. Currently the RB number 3 on the season. Austin Ekeler is an absolute fucking animal, and even up against one of the better run defenses in the NFL, I still expect Austin Ekeler to have the upside to smash in this spot. At number 2, we have Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the New England Patriots at home in Las Vegas on Sunday. Through his last 5 games, he's been the RB 8, 3, 1, 7, and 8. Now, I understand on paper, realistically, just like with Austin Ekeler, this is far from an ideal matchup. This is no wet dream matchup, and even though he is listed as questionable with a hand injury as well as a quad injury, the motherfucker's gonna play, and he has the upside to dominate any defense. This team runs through Josh Jacobs. He is the key focal point in this offense, RB number 1 on the season, and even if he doesn't finish as like a top 5 running back, he's definitely finishing inside of the top 10. At number 3, we have Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans going up against a putrid LA Chargers run defense in LA. RB number 7 last week up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I really thought that that was going to be a smash game for him, and everything went swimmingly to start. The guy was running a fucking train on the Jacksonville Jaguars, but in the second half, took a fucking nap, but still RB number 7 on the week, RB 4 on the season. This is, though, another game that could be like last week, where he starts off strong, but as the Chargers extend the lead further and further, they have to stop running, obviously, because they got to throw, and that hurts Derrick Henry. He's still going to get a couple targets every game. I still think he should have a good game, and even if he just plays a lot in the first half, the motherfucker could score 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, or something crazy, because the Chargers defense, again, straight booty cheeks against the run. So I like Derrick Henry a ton this week. At number 4, we got JT, Jonathan Taylor of the Colts, going up against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. Pretty solid matchup for him. Now, early on in the season, we were starting to throw the narrative on Jonathan Taylor that he was a bust, and it made sense, right? RB2, 33, 23, 59, 23, and 46. But once he returned with Jeff Saturday as the head coach, RB1, 12, 9, and 18 over the last 4 games. This week, he gets the Minnesota Vikings. This is a very positive matchup for him, and I like this matchup a lot, so he's definitely going to be a top 5 running back for me. To close out tier number 1, we have TP, Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville this week, and he's going to need some toilet paper after he wipes his, or technically that's the wrong way to look at things, but he's going to wipe his ass with the Jacksonville Jaguars. This guy is on a fucking tear. RB 6, 2, 39, 1, and 7 over his last 5 games. RB 7 on the season, and the season started with Zeke being the starting running back. This man has took over. This man is explosive. 5.7 yards per carry. The Jaguars defense is soft as baby shit. They are 2-ply. This should be an incredibly easy matchup for Tony Pollard. Now, he doesn't necessarily carry the same name value as a guy like Ekeler, Henry, Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, but at the end of the day, he deserves to be in the upper echelon tier of the running back position. Now we pivot to tier number 2. These guys are all also must starts in my opinion, but they're just not in the same, same talking point as the guys ahead of them. At number 6, we have Dalvin Cook, running back of the Minnesota Vikings, going up against the Indianapolis Colts. He had an atrocious showing up against the Detroit Lions last week, RB number 26. Currently the RB number 10 on the season in half PPR. The matchup against the Colts is pretty good. I expect him to bounce back because he is averaging 4.5 yards per attempt this season. One down game isn't going to necessarily make me shit my pants or something and worry a bunch about Dalvin Cook. He hasn't been as good as I thought he would be this season. But again, the matchup does look correct for him. At number 7, we got Miles Sanders of the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. RB3, 23-2 over the last 3 games. Currently RB number 8 on the season. This is a fantastic matchup up against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. The only thing that takes Miles Sanders out of consideration of being a tier number 1 guy is the risk that comes with him. Not that he's like injury prone or something, but the risk is there's a lot of fucking cooks in the kitchen of Philadelphia. It's a crowded room. Hurts at any time can run the ball in. They have Miles Sanders. They have Kenneth Gainwell. They have Boston Scott. They have AJ Brown. Dallas Goedert is going to be back more than likely. They have the Slim Reaper, the Heisman, Devonta Smith. So there's a lot of players to catch passes, a lot of players to run the ball. Again, I love Miles Sanders, but there's a lot of competition around him. At number 8, we have Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. In his return game last week up against the Browns, he was the RB number 17. Didn't really play all of that bad, but we would have expected a little bit better of a performance up against a really bad Cleveland Browns. Run defense, Samaje Perine did pretty decent in that game, but I still believe very strongly that Joe Mixon is the workhorse running back on this team, and maybe they were looking to just ease him in last week. This week up against a Bucs defense that has been laughably bad, I expect greatness out of Joe Mixon this week. And at number 9, to close out tier number 2, we have my guy 9-inch Nicholas Chubb of the Baltimore Ravens, or of the Cleveland Browns, going up against the Baltimore Ravens tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time with Deshaun Watson back. This man has been a fucking unmitigated disaster. RB 29 and 32. But at the end of the day, he is still one of the best running backs in the NFL. The Ravens defense is dick cheese against the run. So I fully expect the Browns to look to utilize 9-inch Nicholas Chubb more in this game. Again, I've understood. I fully understand. You look at the stats, he hasn't played well recently. He hasn't gotten enough opportunity. But at the end of the day, when you have one of the most talented running backs in the NFL in a positive matchup, you should have him ranked highly, even if he's in a little bit of a slump. Now I move to tier number 3 at the running back position. These guys are the guys that have more question marks than tier number 2 and tier number 1, but they all have the upside to finish inside the top 5. Saquon Barkley of the Giants going up against the Commanders in Washington. This is a bad matchup, especially with Chase Young back. Last time against the Commanders, though, he was the RB number 9 on the week in week number 13, so I don't think we can really throw stones here and say that he's going to shit the bed, right? I don't believe that. But at the same time, they kind of just teased him a little bit last week, right? He was banged up. They didn't give him that full workload. So the question is, will he get the full workload this week or not? Now, he's been a full participant in practice since Wednesday with that neck injury, so I think he'll be good. But I do worry the Chase Young factor is very big. At number 11, we have Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, a wet dream matchup. With that said, though, with the fact that I love this matchup up against the Atlanta Falcons, it's pretty clear that Kamara's in a slump as well. 45 at running back, 51, 19, 36, 23 over the last 5 games. RB 21 on the season. Again, the matchup is amazing, so we have him ranked highly. But is my confidence in Alvin Kamara at an all-time high? The answer would be fuck no, baby. To close out tier number 3, we have number 12, Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers going up against the LA Rams on Monday Night Football. Aaron Jones is currently questionable. A.J. Dillon had a field day up against the Bears. In Week 13, they're coming off of the bye. The matchup against the Rams is positive, but the usage of A.J. Dillon that we saw might concern me a little bit about Aaron Jones. Again, I still believe he's the best running back on the team, and he has that top 5 upside, and he's been pretty efficient, 5.2 yards per attempt on the season, so it's pretty clear that he's a very good running back, but there's a lot of things going around too, like the fact that the Packers might just be dead in the fucking water, Luca Brasi style, so I am a little bit panicked about Jones. I still have him ranked highly, but again, my confidence in all of these guys is not at the peak. That's why they're all in the same tier together. Before we pivot into tier number 4, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at DraftKings Sportsbook. If you're a brand new user to DraftKings Sportsbook, you click on the link in the video description down below or in the pinned comment and bet $5 on any sport pregame moneyline from now until December 30th. You will receive $150 in free bets if your team wins. Notice how I said if your team wins. So I'm going to throw it onto the screen right now. We're going to navigate to the top left of DraftKings Sportsbook. Click on college basketball. And we are going to select the largest favorite, the biggest favorite of the day. Iowa minus 6,000 versus sounded like fucking Mike Tyson, versus Southeast Missouri State tomorrow. Iowa, money line, minus 6,000 versus Southeast Missouri State, a school I've never even heard of. Tomorrow, you pick them, they win, you get $150 in free bets. If you bet $5 on them, it is that simple. Also, if you live in Maryland, since gambling just got legalized there, you'll actually receive, and DraftKings Sportsbook just opened there, you'll get $200 in free bets. So make sure that you take advantage of it right now before it disappears. John Cena style. You can't see it, but it's still active until December 30th. Next up, we move to tier number 4 at the running back position, beginning with RB number 13. I moved this guy up a little bit. That is Isaiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Houston Texans in Houston. This guy has been a top 3 running back in every single of his last 3 games. RB 19, 11, and 16 in half PPR. Now, last week, I know Jerick McKinnon had that great game, but that was all fucking game script. Against the Houston Texans, they should be beating the dog piss out of the Houston Texans, and they're not going to have to throw the ball as much to a guy like Jerick McKinnon. I know Isaiah Pacheco is going to get like 1 or 2 targets a game, but here, up against the Texans, up against a putrid, you smell that? It's dog shit. That's what the defense smells like in Houston. Atrocious against the run. We just saw Tony Pollard run train on him. I love Pacheco in this spot. At number 14, we have James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Denver Broncos in Denver. The Broncos defense is highly ranked by a lot of people, and I agree with that, but that's because of their pass defense. Against the run, they're actually pretty mid. RB number 5 and 6 over his last 2 games, even with Colt McCoy under center again. The Broncos defense isn't all that good. I feel like I might have James Conner ranked a little too low, but then again, this game probably is going to end up having very little scoring in it, so I don't think I could project Conner to rank much higher than this. But again, it really wouldn't surprise me because of how good he has looked coming back from the injury. RB 5, 6, 14, 5, and 20 in his last 4 games coming back, or last 5 games coming off the injury. At number 15, we have Travis Etienne Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Dallas Cowboys this week. Now, on paper, this is a solid matchup. On paper, we have seen 3 shit games out of Etienne, but we know he has that top 10 upside, a 3-game stretch from week 7 to week 9, where he is a top 10 running back in every single game. I know, he hasn't played well recently. RB 83, 39, and 44 over the last 3 games. That is not good. So that's what ranks him here as RB 15, close to tier number 4, right? This isn't the best ranking. I know the upside's high, but what I've seen recently makes me incredibly nervous to play Travis Etienne in a game in the fantasy football playoffs. Now we move to RB number 16 to close out tier number 4. That is Zonovan Bam, Knight of the New York Jumbo Jets, going up against the Detroit Lions at home in MetLife. Zach Wilson under center, which really makes me nervous. Zach Wilson has been bad. B-A-D, capital bad, like the fucking Michael Jackson album. I think that's the title of an album. RB 24, 13, and 13 over the last 3 games. So I don't think Zach Wilson can really fuck everything up. But you never know. It is Zach Wilson. RB, or tier number 5, beginning with RB number 17, Ezekiel Elliott of the Cowboys going up against the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Again, while Tony Pollard has been dumpstering these teams, Ezekiel Elliott's still waving the flag, playing well. RB 12, 8, 13, 8, 10, and 11 over his last 6 games. We have to give this guy his flowers. He's been good. Now, does he have the same upside as Tony Pollard? In my opinion, I don't think so, because he's not as explosive as him. But he's still averaging 4.2 yards per carry, which isn't terrible. The Jaguars' defense is bad against the run. I don't feel like I can rank him much higher, though, because I really think Tony Pollard's going to go off, but he's still really safe. He's by far the safest running back out of these other running backs here, Brian Robinson and J.K. Dobbins. At number 18, we have B-Rob of the Commanders going up against the Giants. RB 17 and 4 over the last 2 games. This last week, he was on a bye. His last game against the Giants was in week number 13. 21 carries, 96 yards, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 15 receiving yards, 12 fantasy points. RB number 17. I think he just has a decent game. He doesn't have too much receiving upside. He has been seeing more targets recently, but again, he's not going to catch like 8-10 balls in a game like Eckler could. Antonio Gibson is still there, but they really look to kind of fade Antonio Gibson out more, and Brian Robinson's been thumping through the defense. And again, he performed well against the Giants last time, so I think this is a pretty fair ranking for him. At number 19, we have J.K. Dobbins of the Ravens going up against the Browns in Cleveland. One of the wet dream matchups. The Browns defense, again, bottom of the barrel, bottom of the ocean, terrible against the run. But and this is a big butt fucking Kim Kardashian, we all know that they're not just going to use Dobbins. They're going to use Gus Edwards. They're going to use other running backs. If Huntley plays, Huntley's going to run. Running back 9 last week. Congrats. But we also saw that in week 4 when it's like, oh, he came back against Buffalo, RB10. And then after that, RB55 and 56. So we shall see with Dobbins. I think he's pretty risky this week. But again, the matchup kind of almost outweighs the risk, which is why I have him ranked so high. Because, again, the matchup's a wet dream up against the putrid Browns run defense. Now we move to tier number 6, beginning at RB20 with DeAndre Swift of the Lions going up against the New York Jumbo Jets in MetLife. Bad matchup. The Jets pretty decent against the run. But we all know if this guy gets the correct amount of carries that he should be given, the targets he should be given, he could be the RB1 on the week. The problem, recently, aside from week 13 against Jacksonville, notoriously bad against the run, he hasn't done shit. And it sucks because we know the upside's there. We know how good this guy can play. He just has not been putting up the numbers. That's why he's ranked here at RB20. Not super safe, but I'd be shocked if he didn't get at least like 9-10 points here, to be honest. RB21, Najee Harris, 21. Can you do something for me? Of the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Panthers in Carolina. Najee's kind of flipped the switch a little bit recently. RB15, 25, 29, 3, and 22. Now, I know that's not great, but we're at points in the season where this guy's like running back 39, 48, right? Early on in the season, it was like, holy fuck, why did I draft Najee Harris? And you might still be thinking that, but if you made it to the playoffs, he at least has a good matchup. The Panthers' run defense isn't that great. So I like Najee Harris here. But again, how high can you rank a motherfucker who we know has been incredibly inconsistent and only averages 3.8 yards per carry? At one point in the season, he was averaging 3.3 yards per carry, so you can tell he's been playing better. But man, oh man, it's been a bad year for Najee Harris. At number 22, we got Rachaad White with 2 A's of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Bengals. RB 25, 14, and 15 over the last 3 games. Been pretty consistent. Looks like he's the guy over Lenny, but Lenny's still going to be getting touches, and that is definitely concerning for Rachaad White. The matchup against the Bengals also kind of reeks of negative game script because the Bengals might just stomp on their fucking throat here. But, again, big butt fucking Mia Malkova here this time. He's been getting targets, 5, 8, and 9 over the last 3 games. He's good at catching, too. He caught 5 of 5 last week. Week 13, 6 receptions on 8 targets. Week 12, 9 for 9 against the Browns. So he's good pass catcher. Good player, not amazing, 3.9 yards per carry. So I'm not, like, fucking crowning this guy king of Tampa, right? Of course not. And the Bucs are, as a team, they're technically alive because the NFC as a whole just sucks donkey cock and the NFC South does. Let's be honest with you, though. Is this a great matchup? No. It's okay. Number 23, we got David Montgomery. This is a bad matchup, but he's been consistent. RB 12, 22, and 6 over the last 3 games. The Eagles' defense, great against the run when Davis is healthy, and he is this game. So I'm not overwhelmingly confident David Montgomery, but I am confident in one way where, like, this guy's going to get 12 points probably. But this matchup, smell it through the screen, it doesn't smell good. It smells kind of scary. As if you can smell fear, but apparently you can, according to a lot of those horror movies. Now we move to tier number 7. This is kind of just the rest of the guys. The guys that I couldn't rank much higher, but like if you're down bad, you could start these guys. But again, these are like you're really reaching to the bottom of the barrel if you kind of have to start one of these guys, especially since it's the fucking fantasy playoffs, right? You're one of the best 6 teams, I guess, because this is now the fantasy playoffs where you would need 6 teams. Next week would be 4 if you're in a 10-team league. So yeah, you're one of the best 6 teams in your league. Let's hope you don't have to start any of these guys. At the top of the tier, we got Latavius Murray. Great matchup against Arizona. Problem is Brett Rippon's the quarterback, so I think they're going to try to run more. But the biggest problem here is Latavius just isn't good. 3.9 yards per attempt. Doesn't look good, but Mike Boone's hurt. They have to use Latavius. It's a good matchup. It's just a gross game. Number 25, we have Raheem the Dream Mostert. Jeff Wilson, he might play. He might not play. I'm not too sure. RB 35 last week. The Dolphins have to run. There's going to be a lot of inches of snow. Hella snow. Whole lot of snow. Should be not a great matchup, though. The Bills' defense good against the run, but they wanted Von Miller. I think the Dolphins are going to have to run. I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm worried about this game. Panicking a little. Think we got to give the rock to Raheem. Gonna hope that means Raheem plays better because it seems like he's the RB1 now. At number 26, we have Jamal with 2 A's Williams of the Lions going up against the Jets. Been kind of off the last 3 games, but still has that upside. As a whole, this is just a bad matchup against the Jets. But again, if he scores a touchdown, which he's been prone to do this season, the motherfucker has 14 touchdowns this season. It's been 14 games. That's a tug a game. Sean Watson averages a tug a game, maybe even more, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I don't love him. But again, like, these guys aren't as bad. Like, once we get to A.J. Dillon, like, that's when it starts to really get bad. Like, these guys I don't love. There's worse than them, though, and that's kind of where we get to A.J. Dillon. But again, I didn't feel like separating them in a tier because you don't really want to have to be stuck with any of these guys. 27, we got A.J. Dillon of the Packers going up against the Rams. RB 4-12 over the last 2 games, so he's been looking good. So you can't fully dump off A.J. Dillon, but like, we can't just blindly look fucking Stevie Wonder at these last 2 games and forget RB 45, 32, 31, 39, 57, 25, 61 over a stretch of games, right? He hasn't been good. He's been a top 10 running back twice, RB 29 in the season. So again, while we can look at the positives, it's not like this guy's the definition of fucking consistency. He's just not. At number 28, we have Cam Akers of the Rams going up against the Packers in Green Bay. RB 23-7 over the last 2 games, so I think he'll be fine. The Packers' run defense isn't good. But again, like, you're not resting your playoff hopes on fucking Cam Akers when they're going to use other running backs as well. And when Baker looks good, they didn't run as much with Baker. They only ran 12 times last week. And the Packers might be able to lay the points on, and then they're going to have to be throwing from behind. And it's not like Cam Akers is an Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler catches a bunch of passes, right? Just 1 target in each of the last 2 games. That's just how I feel about him. Running back 29 here. C. Cordero Patterson of the Atlanta Falcons going up against the New Orleans Saints. RB 40-32 over the last 2 games. Desmond Ridder realistically should blindly check down 1,000,000 times to Cordero Patterson. But this team has tried to use a 4-4-4, fucking like you're at Wendy's, 4-for-4. They're trying to use a foursome backfield. They use 1,000,000 running backs. So what are you supposed to do with Patterson? Running back 30, we got Donta Foreman of the Carolina Panthers going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. RB 27, 26, and 47 over the last 3 games. They also are using a 3-headed committee here. They got Foreman, Chuba Hubbard, and Blackshear. Look, Foreman's a great running back. I think he's actually really good. But they're not using them enough to where I can feel confident. And the Steelers defense, pretty good. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. Today's video is being sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. Make sure you guys check them out down below. It helps me out a ton. It'll help you out as well. Get those $150 in free bets. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good.